We've got a chat message that says, "It was so insane being there when they took off. In hindsight, it was such a special moment. It's funny how you never realize it while it's happening." And I think that's absolutely true and important to recognize that this was an independent brand that seemingly overnight they had like legit stockists. Like they were everywhere. They
Yes.
were selling clothes for retail price at the same prices as a lot of the biggest luxury brands out of essentially nowhere. Like Demna had pedigree within the scene, but this was not a brand that was being like propped up
Yeah.
by anything else necessarily.
And you make a good point
Mm,
because it did kind of come out of nowhere and sell really well. And slash, he something that he mentioned that we were talking about a moment ago was like
mhm.
Vetements was definitely in the consciousness, like kind of with repeated shows, and it has not been the bantied about brand for a while.
Right.
And there are designers that kind of ebb and flow. There are designers that have a better job, I guess, of kind of maintaining not just kind of attention on them, but like
Mhm.
their fan base. And, I would call basically any of the Japanese avant-garde designers,
Mhm.
Tricky Rick, Eddie, Slim
Right.
Man, the certain
Yeah.
design, or like Raf. There are designers who kind of, there's always kind of a conversation around them.
Mhm.
Vetements has been less discussed, and
For
there
sure.
obviously an elephant in the room being that Demna stepped down from the brand.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, I think we kind of hinted at it, but there's a clear delineation mark, I think, at least in terms of their presence of while they had Demna there and after he left. Because what happened, I don't know if he ever really talked about it, but I think it's pretty obvious that what happened is he decided I'm going to focus all my efforts on Balenciaga. He leaves to focus on Balenciaga, and his brother Guram takes over the endeavor basically in its entirety. He's overseeing the entire thing now, and I think that's the clear point where the public interest slipped off. And I think that was like 2019 ish,
Yeah,
2020.
I think that that's at least when I think that that probably happened. I think another problem that I have with this kind of setup is I use my phone as my camera here. So if Killian's trying to text me, I don't know. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, kind of in terms of like Vetements falling off and whether or not it's still like relevant, is all of the controversy surrounding Demna as of late. And those are kind of like two pronged. And I think some of it is potentially his relationship with the artist formerly known as Kanye West, who Demna has worked pretty closely with on a regular basis. And Kanye recently came out as a Nazi, and you don't necessarily want to be associated with them. And the other part was for anybody who's unfamiliar, there was, what was it, last year, 2 years ago, a kind of niche campaign that Balenciaga had that seemed to be promoting child pornography, that blew up in the news. And there was a whole controversy about whether or not it was deliberate the way they did it. You can look it up yourself if you don't know about it. But the long and short of it is that made people question Demna and whether or not he's a cool guy or not. Though, at least the last time I read about it, he explicitly said that it was a mistake that was never deliberate. But some people think that. So, among the things that maybe have led to Vetements kind of losing kind of the capacity to captivate people is Demna potentially being soured because of his relationship to the artist formerly known as Kanye West, and Demna being soured because of the controversial child pornography ad campaign. And I think those
Right.
the two things play into it, and to kind of build and finish and pass the ball. I think that there is also a component of Vetements when it hit the scene. It was super novel. even if half of people were like, "This is stupid,"
Mhm.
it was novel nonetheless. And I think
Yeah.
there might be a level of people feeling like this kind of overly ironic, expensive brand thing is old hat. And I
Yeah.
wonder if that paints kind of an interest or an appreciation of Vetements at this point.
Right. And I think, you know, and now this is making me want to know. I want to know what Chat GPT thinks. We always
Yes.
ask our old friend Chat what they think about the designer that we're talking about. And I think this is the perfect time. Like, uh, what does Chat GPT find unique about Vetements, right?
Okay. The
So
brand Vetements. Please set it up for us.
I am just curious. I think there are legitimately a lot of directions you could go in to say what sets Vetements apart, and I want to know what our AI overlords think. So hit me.
Yeah, because so here's a repeating segment in the podcast, and we do it primarily because it's a good tool and not just to be trendy. But we ask Chat GDP, gross domestic product,
Mm-hmm.
to give us kind of a nuanced understanding of whatever brand or designer we're looking at, and sometimes it spits out, parroting some interesting ideas. So I asked it, what are the best qualities of the brand Vetements? It says Vetements is a fashion brand known for its unconventional approach and disruptive designs. While opinions on what constitutes the best qualities of a brand can vary, okay. It says, okay, here's kind of the list it gives me. Unique aesthetic. It
Mm-hmm.
challenges traditional fashion norms. Features oversized silhouettes, deconstructed elements, and unexpected combinations. Creative direction. Vetements is renowned for its creative direction, led by designer Demna. So this
Mm-hmm.
is incorrect.
They're reaching backwards, right?
Yeah.
Even they know that that's when it was at its most like creative, right?
Yes, even the computer knows.
Yeah.
Influential streetwear, it says. Vetements played a significant role in blurring the lines between luxury fashion and streetwear. I would agree with that. I think we were just talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Collaborative approach.
Yeah. I mean,
I
they were
guess.
known. They were early collab boys. You know what I mean? I think
guess.
DHL wasn't a collab, but they did end up circling back to doing an actual collab.
Yeah, and they've collaborated with like
early.
Reebok, and they've collaborated with Levi's. They have collaborated with those brands, but I would argue with the computer about this. I don't think it's like compelling in the same way that, say, like the way that Supreme does collabs. These are almost like collabs where it's like, hey, I wanted to take a pair of 501s and like stitch 1,000 of them together.
Yeah.
And the point is more or less taking kind of a generic garment and freaking it. And I don't know if it's really about like taking the two essences of those brands. I think it's more or less about what Vetements does, which is exploring strangeness in the pedestrian. Yeah. Other than that, the computer says attention to detail. Okay. And cultural relevance. Well, I'm going to take off points for that one. Cultural relevance. What makes this compelling? Its relevance.
It's relevant. Right.
Yeah. It says Vetements managed to capture the spirit of the times and resonate with the younger fashion-forward audience. I mean, I guess this is what we have been talking about. It was very relevant, but I want to know why.
It's not totally up to date, though. It feels a little bit like behind. That's like the argument you would have made like 3 years ago, I feel like.
Yeah.
Give me 2 seconds. I'm swapping.
Well, gang, once again, I'm here alone. This podcast is full of surprises. Hey, buddy. Hi.
Hey. Got a mic over here.
Hey. So at this point, we've talked about basically how Vetements began. And I encourage anybody to kind of like look around, try to look at some of if you are unfamiliar with this era or you weren't paying attention to fashion at the time, just start Googling like early Vetements runway shows and try to put yourself in the space of a person in a fashion world where you're just starting to like kind of everyone appreciate that like streetwear could be expensive and all these things. So you try to imagine you were there, you'll get the idea. And we've also talked about the now times, which is Vetements has really kind of lost at least attention.
Yeah,
And do you own any Vetements pieces, Kelly?
I do.
Which ones? Whoa! He's wearing one!
Super long sleeve Titanic coming soon hoodie.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. That's like one of the iconic ones to me. And I also have like
wear that on your trip?
Alpha Industries collab bomber. That's like two bombers put like stitched together, so it's like super extra wide.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm a massive fan of the Vetements pieces that I do have.
I love that for you, dude. I love.
What about
that.
you? You got any VT?
Maybe I'll just say this. A friend had a model boyfriend who collected Vetements. And this was around 2016. And the pieces seemed cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was whatever. The only good thing that guy ever did was one time we were having a conversation. And he was a professional. And he's asked me in a way that felt to me at the time earnest. He earnestly asked me, "Have you ever considered modeling?"
Oh.
Me?
Listen, I mean, why wouldn't he ask that?
Because I was usually the conversations were like this. I was like, "Oh yeah, well I don't know," and he those people are hot. There's no question about it.
Right. So yeah, no, I mean that doesn't like super surprise me. I don't necessarily see Vetements fitting with your personal aesthetic all that much. Yerp. I think it's like very, very much up my alley, like that kind of like metalhead, kind of like dark black type aesthetic, but with still like some design elements that you can hang your hat on. I think that sums up what I'm looking for pretty well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Teenage dirtbag shib.
Yeah.
So
great karaoke song.
Yeah, a go-to for some. If there were kind of two things that have happened in recent Vetements history.
Yes.
The one being Demna kind of relinquishing his creative director role at the name of the brand and his brother taking over. And the other one is Vetements, the diffusion line.
Yes. One moment. I've got to share my screen once again. We lost it.
Okay.
All right. So this is not Vetements, okay, you guys? This is Vetements.
Basically, take the word Vetements and remove all the vowels, and that is the diffusion line that started, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, tops.
Yeah.
And
I think they've got maybe like 3 or 4 collections under their belt.
And Killian and I were chatting about it prior to the pod launching off into the stratosphere. And at least like I remember reading about it in like Women's Wear Daily or whatever. And my understanding, or what I think the two of us thought about it, was Vetements with no vowels was to be a diffusion line, hypothetically cheaper products. But that does not seem to be the case.
No. Like let me just bring up, just to give you an idea, VTMNTS. So a leather pants going for about $2,000. We're not looking at like the real or whatever. I want like retail. A t-shirt $450, some boots $1,200. These are very 50, much,
but it was $500.
These are very much Vetements prices, right?
Yeah, and I guess like even without us like reading any kind of description of it, our assessment is that Vetements no vowels, essentially what it is striving to be is kind of the dark shadow.
Yeah.
Which also doesn't have vowels. The dark shadow type diffusion brand. in that it appears to be clothing that is hypothetically more wearable, more
Mm-hmm.
streetwear, and more like your wardrobe.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of Vetements then and now can be very experimental and not necessarily wearable. But this is one of the new kind of things that has happened with the Vetements and Vetements and all of this whole brand is that now they have this diffusion line, no vowels.
Yeah.
Where does that fit in?
That's a fantastic question. I
Tell me.
don't really know. I don't think I like it. Like I get it, right? I get
Okay.
it. Dark Shadow has been maybe the most successful diffusion line in like luxury clothing history.
I
I
don't know.
I'm
That might
sure
be a
somebody can
bold
make an
statement.
argument of some others that would like stack up similarly,
I
but
mean,
I think
I
looking at
bet.
Dark Shadow, you've
Yeah.
got a very clear uh, case to follow, right? You've got the business case. You can be like, we can do that, and I don't know if it works at least from a design perspective. Like I'm not grabbed by the clothing. I could understand it if it was at a more accessible price point, like Vetmo really saying this is your way in. Like you
Yeah.
get in here, maybe it's like half as much as mainline, and eventually you trade up to being a mainline customer. Like that is a path that makes sense to me. But as it stands, I just don't really know if it works.
I mean, that's the rub, right? At the edge of the day, the thing
Mhm.
that every brand, all of these luxury brands, kind of have a priority or a prerogative to protect the allure,
Right.
because that is where they make a lot of the money. And if people are like, oh, I wish I could afford it. Why is it so expensive? Yada yada yada.
Mhm.
Frankly, there are people crunching the numbers on these things, and like the starting price point will dictate kind of the success of a lot of the rest of the brands, whether it's
Mhm.
good or bad. That's the truth. It wouldn't just be as simple as I'll just sell for less money and nothing will happen. There is a clear effect if you sell clothes with your name at a much lower price.
Yeah.
It dilutes what people are willing to pay for everything. But
Right.
where is the fine line with that, and why would I say, hypothetically, I'm looking at a link right now on Essence. It's a tuxedo T-shirt, like the one you would buy at Walmart.
Okay.
It's $400. Why would I do that? Why would I? Why? Oh, why would I go out of my way to say, yeah, I'm going to spend $400, not even on a Vetements T-shirt,
Right.
a Vetements T-shirt that is a tuxedo T-shirt.
Uh-oh.
I would call that person crazy. I would call him a
Right.
psycho. But the other part of it is, at least for me, like when we
Mhm.
were looking at Vetma and Vetemin, I don't even know what do we call the other one. I keep trying to call it Vetements.
I just go VTMNTS. It's so unwieldy, but I don't know what else to do.
Guys, let us know in the comments what you think we should call the
Great.
diffusion line.
Please tell us.
Um, the thing I was thinking was like when we were looking for our smash and pass, which is coming. It's another segment we do, and it's
Yeah.
coming. It was hard for me to find what the ones I wanted to smash because
Mhm.
to some extent I was looking for pieces that were reminiscent of the ones I remember from the Vetements Golden era,
Yeah.
which the stuff on sale right now aren't, but
Mhm.
the diffusion line at least feels more parallel to it. It feels more like that
Mhm.
era.
Interesting. Interesting. I like the argument. I like it. I think so. Here's the interesting part.
Okay.
And it gets kind of hard because Vetma, you can never tell what's PR or what's like a stunt and what's earnest. Like they're always blurring that line. But I remember maybe a couple months ago them doing this big splash saying, uh, fashion, it's too expensive. Everyone spends all their money on
Right.
influencers and marketing. So what we're doing with VTMNTS, this diffusion line, is we're going to make it in the same factories, the same quality, but we're going to stop paying all this BS marketing and we're going to give it to you, you know, at a cheaper price and make it affordable.
What happened?
I don't know if that's an admission that like the positioning wasn't right to start, or if it's just another send up by this like super nihilistic brand conglomerate thing.
I mean, there is also the question is I always bring up this boring conversation. Well, maybe it's not boring. Maybe people like it. Where it's
They're
like
always interesting.
luxury brands, how do they make money? And the answer is through accessories. That's where all their money comes from. And at least for Vetements, I think that it saw a lot of success early on because it made such a massive impact on social media and in the news, and it was able to sustain itself purely selling the garments. Like I'm trying to think, was there a hot, because obviously when Demna took over Balenciaga, he had several hits of like it bags and several hits of it shoes. So they were cooking. And that's why Balenciaga did so well. But for Vetements, it felt like it was always the garments themselves that were kind of doing the numbers. I don't know.
They've got some juice with the like combat boots. I feel like that's something I've seen a lot of. Like there are these combat boots, they say like big Vetements across the back or front or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I think that they have a similar level of cachet to the Levi's with that just say like Vetements big print across the crotch or whatever.
Yeah, across your
wiener. I think there's like something there, but definitely nothing to the level of what you would say is like a successful accessory strategy for a luxury brand.
Yeah, so I wonder, because I mean, you guys crack open women's wear daily. You'll see that essentially the calculation is that if a luxury brand is going to sell their garments for hundreds or thousands of dollars, if they're going to put on runway shows, if they're going to do the whole how many ring circus, multiple ring circus thing, there has to be a strategy that is built around either fragrances, shoes, or bags.
And I've got actually some crazy news for people.
What's that?
They might not expect this. It's really counterintuitive, but I don't know if you knew this, but Telfar do not make their money off their cut and sew t-shirts and sweatshirts.
We already know this.
Oh, you knew that.
We already know this.
Oh, shit, you knew
we
that.
We can't keep getting away with it.